Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about Mono Blue Spirits in Pioneer, which is sort of the format's premier tempo deck in my opinion. It plays efficient creatures, extremely efficient counterspells, and protects those creatures extremely well. We're going to talk about some of the card choices, how the deck actually works, and why we're playing certain cards in the sideboard. Let's do it. So this is Mono Blue Spirits. So first off with this deck, notice that we're running snow-covered islands. We have some snow synergies in the deck, mostly through Ascendant Spirit, which we'll talk about in a second. Also Faithless Haven. Faithless Haven becoming a 4/3 creature with Vigilance. That's all creature types, so we get to continue to abuse these spirit synergies, and we man up with these snow lands. And I'm going to take just a second to kind of divide out the different parts of the deck. So the first part of the deck, and maybe the most important part of the deck, is the creature suite. The creatures consist of both aggressive creatures and creatures that contribute to the tempo playstyle of the deck. First off, we're playing Ascendant Spirit. Ascendant Spirit is a 1-mana 1/1 that you can pay 2 snow mana to make it a 2/3. Then you can pay 3 snow mana to make it a 4/4. And then you can pay 4 snow mana to put 2+1/+1 encounters on it, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This card's really good because you're able to play it as a 1/1 for 1, but also like it's a mana dump, right? It's really important that we're able to leave like counter magic up or like protection up, and then be able to dump our mana on the end step if we really want to. And in addition, like this is sort of a must answer. If it goes unanswered, then it's just going to be dealing a ton of damage and drawing a ton of cards. Notice you don't have to do this at sorcery speed as well. You can use it as a combat trick and threaten that combat trick and then not actually use it and spend your mana on something else, but your opponent has to respect it, which is really, really sweet. Playing 4 Mausoleum Wanderers. So this is a sometimes aggressive card if you have a creature heavy draw. This is sort of like the Spirits deck Thalia. In that your opponents, as when they cast instants and sorceries, they have to sort of respect Mausoleum Wanderer, and especially respect us flashing in a like instant speed spirit and pumping up Mausoleum Wanderer and then then popping it. It forces our opponents to play very weird and different, and actually sort of becomes a must answer, similar to Ascendant Spirit, because they have to respect it so much they might as well just answer it. Spectral Sailor is just a 1/1 flash spirit. Again, something that can pump up Mausoleum Wanderer and kind of get them. But also, like, if the game goes really, really long, it's important that we're able to draw cards because a lot of our individual cards in our deck are not very powerful. So having a mana dump and paying 4 mana and just drawing a card is really strong against these, like, slower mid-range decks and control decks. We're playing our Spirit Lord and Supreme Phantom as a 2-mana 1/3. All those spirits get +1/+1. It's obvious why we're playing this, especially since a lot of them are just, like, 1/1 crappy spirits. We're playing 4 Shacklegeist. This is a 2-mana 2/2 flyer. Can only block other creatures with flying, and you can tap 2 untapped spirits you control to tap target creature you don't control. Notice Shacklegeist does not need to tap when you use that last ability. But tapping creatures you don't control can be super powerful in senses of like racing scenarios where you can tap down their big dumb guy, or even tap down stuff on end step with your untapped creatures. They don't need to be not summoning sick in order to use this ability. You can totally do it with summoning sick creatures, and then untap and then jam. Tap down their reach creature or flyer on end step, untap, attack with everything, win the game. The plays like that happen all the time, and this card's very good. We're also going to play 4 Rattle Chains. Rattle Change is as a red-black player, mostly myself, Rattle Chains is the card I fear most of the time. Rattle Chains is a 2-mana 2/1 with flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof until end of turn, so it's a way to protect your spirits, which we'll see more of that in just a second. And you may cast spirit spells as though they had flash. So now, if you have Rattle Chains on the battlefield, after you protect your guy from a removal spell, your spirits now have flash, so we get to abuse Mausoleum Wanderer more often. We don't have to play at sorcery speed, so it's even better against like decks that are trying to stabilize against us and trying to do this combat math, which we can mess up on end step all the time. Feels very, 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 very good. The second section of the deck is counter magic and interruption, mostly. So off of the same vein as Rattle Chains, we're playing a 2 of Slip Out the back. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It phases out. Phasing out basically just means they don't exist. So this is something that a 1-mana spell that we can protect from removal spells very easily. We're playing a 1 of Spell Pierce just to round out our counter magic suite. 1 mana being able to counter things is pretty important, especially like on the back of Mausoleum Wanderer. They can play around Mausoleum Wanderer, and then we can back it up with Spell Pierce, and stuff like that happens all the time. Playing 2 Lofty Denials, a 2-mana instant counter target spell unless this controller pays 1. If you control a creature with flying, counter spell as a controller plays 4. So really, this is a better mana leak in this deck because nearly all our guys have flying. And we're playing Geistlight Snare, which costs 2 mana and is just a mana leak if we control a spirit, which is nearly all the time. And then we also play some enchantments, and so if we also control an enchantment, it is a 1-mana leak, which is extremely powerful. So these are ways to interrupt what our opponent's doing and continue to protect our creatures. Our primary source of card advantage, which is just feels really good, is once we have this protection set up, and sometimes we do it as sort of a nut hand on like Mausoleum Wanderer or Spectral Sailor or something, is cast Curious Obsession. Curious Obsession gives +1/+1 to the spirit, and when it deals damage to a player, draw a card. But if you didn't attack with it, you have to sacrifice Curious Obsession. So it pumps them up, so we deal a little more damage, and then we get to draw a bunch of cards. And drawing a bunch of cards in a deck that has a bunch of protection, and is kind of like the epitome of tempo, right? Like you put this Curious Obsession on something, you know, on a spirit with flying or whatever, Geistlight Snare is all of a sudden 1 mana, and on turn 2 you can like protect your homie with like Geistlight Snare or Slip Out the Back or anything like that, and that's like very, very powerful and really how we win these games. And we're playing a 1 of Brazen Borrower. There's a lot of value in Brazen Borrower and a lot of really corner case scenarios where we can interrupt what our opponent's doing in Brazen Borrower, especially if they're playing like Big Dumb Guys or like Bounce a Treasure in response to like creativity or things like that. That being said, let's talk about the sideboard. Fading Hope is often for race situations when we know we're going to have to be racing with our opponents. Being able to return creatures to their hand and them having to recast, especially if they're larger creatures actually, feels very, very good. Being able to scry 1 even on the smaller creatures like can smooth out our draws and make it so we can race a lot easier. Slip Out the Back is for spot removal decks and kind of for board wipe decks as well. Witness Protection is for against decks that have specific creatures that we're really afraid of, or like too many Big Dumb Guys, and we need to make sure that we can kill like through that, especially if they have like reachers or flyers themselves. Playing 2 Aether Gusts is just like for red and green decks, like if we have red and green spells we're afraid of. Disdainful Stroke's obvious as well if they have a lot of things that cost more mana cost 4 or greater that we're afraid of. Mystical Dispute for blue decks, obviously. Brazen Borrower if we need more of that interaction with random permanents. Playing a split of Cemetery Illuminator and Unlicensed Hearths. A Cemetery Illuminator is just another spirit that allows us to exile a card from a graveyard, but is also like great card advantage, especially if we're able to exile a creature from a graveyard, and then we can use the top of our deck as like a card advantage tool and be able to cast spells from the top of our deck. That's pretty good, I think. And then Unlicensed Hearths is a full-on graveyard hate for decks like Greasefang. So if you like this video, if you thought this video was helpful, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description, especially on Twitch where I stream there most nights. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about Mono Blue Spirits. Sorry. You done?